Now let's make our own value scales. We're gonna do one with pencil, one with crayon, and one with watercolor. If you're somewhere where you have tempera or acrylic paint, you'll do that too. So go ahead and get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil. If you have a ruler or something to trace to make your value scale, you can do that. You need one crayon color, and if you're at school, you need your watercolors, or home, and get ready. Let's make a value scale just using pencil first. Now you can just draw a rectangle, or if you have something you can trace like a ruler or even a paint palette to help you make a straight line, we're just going to do a short rectangle. We don't want to do a really long value scale right now. Just like this. And then come and try to find the middle of this line and make a line going down, and then in the middle of this line and the middle of this line, so that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 little squares inside your value scale. Now let's start by doing the darkest one. You're gonna take your pencil, you don't want it to be too sharp, but you're gonna press down as hard as you can and get a nice dark color right there in that first little square. If you made your square too big and it's hurting your hand, you don't have to fill it up. But I'm gonna fill this up, pressing as hard as I can. And another thing you do is you add layers. So I'm coloring on top of areas where I colored before. It adds another layer of color. I'm making it as dark as I can get it. Ooh, that hurt my hand. When you have the darkest one done, you want to do another dark square, but you're not gonna press as hard. So you just don't press as hard, just like this. So that it's still dark, but a little bit lighter. Value shows light to dark or dark to light, so we're going dark to light by not putting as much pressure down. I'm not pressing as hard. And I might add a couple more layers on there. Just coloring right on top of color. Now this third square is gonna be even lighter. So one thing I do is I take the side of my hand and I put it down on the table, and I'm gonna push my pencil further out. Usually I'm holding right here. I'm gonna bring it down like this so that I am not pressing as hard with my pencil. It's just barely touching my paper. I'm getting lighter. And for me, the lightest one is the most challenging. You could just leave it white, but if you want to, bring your pencil even further, just barely touch the paper. Just a tiny bit of light. Little shadow right there, like that. So now I'm gonna do a value scale with color. You can use crayons or colored pencils for this. I'm just gonna use a blue crayon. And again, we're gonna make a rectangle. Divide it in half, so I find the halfway mark. In half again, in half again. So I have 4 little squares. And just like I did with my pencil, I'm gonna do this with my crayon. I'm gonna start by pressing as hard as I can in that first square. And now, I'm not gonna press as hard right here. lift up my pencil a little bit and get it lighter. And I think I'm gonna add another layer so it gets a little bit darker. Now, I'm not going to hold as close to the end. I'm gonna scoot it back a little bit and just very lightly keep my hand rested on my table. And now I'm getting lighter. And the lightest one, I'm barely gonna touch my paper. This is how we create value with a crayon. I'm happy with that. Next, I'm gonna make a value scale using watercolor paint. So I'm gonna grab an old water bottle. It's still got some dirty paint in there. Make sure I have a brush, and I'm gonna use blue again. And same thing, I'm going to make a square, a little rectangle, not too long. Connect it at the end, there's my rectangle. Divide it in half, and half again, and half again. Now, watercolor is really challenging because the way you make a color lighter is with water. So I want to start with my darkest one, which means I'm going to dip my brush in my water, and I want to get a lot of blue on my brush. And I actually need to make it a little wetter. But we don't want as much water, so that when we paint it, we get a good dark color. That looks nice. And see, I'm not getting any more water, I'm just getting color. I need a little more water to spread it out. Maybe a little bit more paint. Now, to get it lighter, I'm gonna dip my brush in my water, get a little bit of paint on the tip of my brush, and see, it's a little bit lighter because I have less paint. I didn't put as much paint on my brush, and I might even get a little more water and spread it out. So I have more water, less color. Now, I am not going to put any more paint on my brush. I'm just gonna put my brush in the water and spread the water and the leftover paint, and see, it's lighter. It's almost the same as that, so I might put a little tiny bit more color on this one so it's a little bit darker. But I did not add any paint to that third one. Now for the last one, I'm gonna completely clean my brush. Putting my brush in the water cup, I'm cleaning it off completely. And I'm going to first paint this with water. So you can't even see it. Actually, it's kind of bluish in there. I'm gonna get just a little dab of blue on the end of my brush, put it on there, and get more water and just spread that little bit of color. So that's my lightest one. Now, if you're at home and you have tempera paint or acrylic paint, what we probably know is just regular paint, you're gonna need blue and white to create a value scale. If you're at school, we're not using this paint, you can just watch. All right, let's make a value scale to start. Just gonna do the same thing I've been doing. Make a rectangle. Divide it in half. Divide it in half again. And I'm gonna start by painting this first one blue. And I'm just using tempera paint. And now we're gonna slowly add white. So I'm gonna clean my brush off completely. Uh-oh, there's a lot of blue left on there. I might need to get a paper towel. Get your brush as clean as you can with what you have. And I'm gonna put a little bit of blue, like that. I just drop a little dab of blue. Clean my brush. If you have a cup, it might be easier for this. Then I'm gonna get some white, just like that, and mix it right there. And it's a slightly lighter blue. There we go. Now I'm gonna take this blue and white, this kind of lighter color blue, and I'm gonna spread it right there like that. Clean my brush off, and I'll add more white to that lighter color. Get a little more white, and there's an even lighter blue. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take that lighter blue and put it there and add more white. And actually, I already had some white on my brush. So it's just the lightest blue I could make. Adding white, the more white you add, the lighter your color's gonna get. And there are my value scales. This one is with pencil, crayon, watercolor, trying not to get my hand in the paint, watercolor, and this one here is with tempera. Use what you got and make your value scales.